Karl Benz was born into a world powered by steam. It was the year 1844, in a small town in Germany. His father was an engine driver, a man who worked with the mighty locomotives that were changing the landscape. These great iron beasts, breathing smoke and fire, were a source of endless wonder. Young Karl would watch them, his mind filled with questions. He saw the power in these machines. He saw the future. He wondered if this power could be made smaller, more personal. He dreamt of a carriage that could move on its own without a horse to pull it. This was a radical idea, a thought that many would have dismissed as pure fantasy in an age when the clip-clop of hooves was the sound of every street. Karl's curiosity was insatiable. He loved to take things apart. Clocks, toys, anything with gears and springs became a subject of his study. He wanted to understand how they worked, what made them tick. His hands were often greasy, his mind always turning. At school, he was drawn to subjects like physics and chemistry. He was not just a dreamer, he was a student of science. He learned about the principles of engines and the forces of nature. This combination of a vivid imagination and a practical scientific mind was a powerful one. It was the very foundation upon which his future creations would be built, a unique blend that would allow him to see what others could not. Life was not always easy for the Benz family. Karl's father passed away when he was just 2 years old. His mother, a strong and determined woman, worked hard to ensure her son received a good education. She saw the spark of genius in him. She believed in his dreams even when they seemed impossible. Her support was a quiet but constant force in his life. He studied mechanical engineering at the university, absorbing every piece of knowledge he could. He was preparing himself, piece by piece, for the great challenge he had set for himself, to build a carriage that would run without a horse, a machine that would give people the freedom to travel wherever they wished. After finishing his studies, Karl worked in different engineering companies. He gained practical experience, learning the trade from the ground up. But he never forgot his true ambition. He saved his money carefully, every penny a step closer to his goal. In 1871, he started his own small workshop, a place where his ideas could finally take shape. It was here, amidst the clang of hammers and the smell of oil, that the journey to create the world's first automobile truly began. It was a humble beginning for an invention that would, in time, completely reshape the human world and connect it in ways no one had ever imagined. In his workshop, Karl Benz worked tirelessly. His goal was to create an engine that was light and powerful enough to move a vehicle. The steam engines of his time were far too heavy and cumbersome. They were suitable for trains, but not for a small, personal carriage. Karl turned his attention to the internal combustion engine, a relatively new technology. He experimented with different designs, trying to make an engine that ran on petroleum gas. It was a process of trial and error, a slow and often frustrating task. Many nights were spent poring over drawings, making small adjustments, and testing his creations. His hands were skilled, but his patience was his greatest tool. He faced countless obstacles. Money was a constant worry. The parts he needed were expensive, and his small business did not always bring in enough income. There were moments of deep despair, times when giving up seemed like the only sensible option. His business partners often doubted his vision. They saw the horseless carriage as a folly, a waste of precious time and resources. They urged him to focus on more practical, profitable inventions. But Karl's belief in his dream was unshakable. He saw a future where everyone could travel freely, and this vision gave him the strength to persevere against the tide of doubt and financial hardship. After years of relentless effort, he had a breakthrough. He developed a reliable two-stroke engine, and then he perfected a four-stroke engine that was perfect for his purpose. It was a marvel of engineering for its time. It was lightweight, efficient, and it used a clever system of ignition to start. This engine was the heart of his invention. With this crucial component complete, he could now design the body of the vehicle. He chose a three-wheeled design, which was simpler to steer than a four-wheeled one. Every part was carefully considered, from the steel tube frame to the large spoked wheels. It was not just a collection of parts, it was a complete integrated system. The result of all this labor was the Benz patent motorwagen. It looked unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. It was a delicate, almost skeletal machine, with a single seat and a tiller for steering. There were no horses, no harnesses, just the quiet promise of mechanical power. In 1885, the vehicle was ready. The engine was mounted at the rear, connected to the back wheels by a system of belts and chains. It was a moment of incredible achievement. Karl stood back and looked at his creation. After so many years of dreaming, so many years of hard work and sacrifice, the horseless carriage was finally real. The world, however, was not yet ready to believe it. The first public tests of the motorwagon were not a resounding success. The machine was noisy, it was difficult to control, and it often broke down. People in the town of Mannheim were skeptical. They would laugh and point as Karl struggled to get his invention moving. For them, it was a strange and unreliable toy, not a serious mode of transport. The authorities were also concerned, worried about the safety of this new contraption on public roads. Karl grew disheartened by the public's reaction. He had poured his life into this machine, yet it seemed no one could see its potential. He began to doubt himself, and the motorwagon sat in his workshop gathering dust. It was Karl's wife, Bertha Benz, who refused to let the dream die. She was more than just a supportive spouse. She was a true partner in the enterprise and had invested her own money into it. She understood the genius of her husband's invention, and she knew that it needed a bold demonstration to convince the world. She believed that people needed to see the car in action, to see it travel a long distance, to understand that it was a truly useful machine. So, she devised a daring plan. A plan that was born of faith and a brilliant understanding of public relations, long before such a term even existed. In the early morning of a day in August 1888, while Karl was still asleep, Bertha took action. With her two teenage sons, Eugen and Richard, she quietly pushed the motorwagon out of the workshop. She left a note for her husband, then started the engine. Her destination was her mother's home in the town of Pforzheim, over 100 kilometers away. This had never been done before. It was the world's first long-distance automobile journey. The trip was an adventure filled with challenges. The car had no fuel tank, so Bertha had to buy Ligroin, a petroleum solvent, from a pharmacy in a small town, making it the world's first filling station. Along the way, she proved herself to be a remarkable mechanic. When a fuel line became blocked, she cleared it with her hat pin. When an ignition wire shorted out, she used her garter as insulation to repair it. The wooden brakes began to fail, so she had a shoemaker line them with leather, in doing so inventing the world's first brake linings. She and her sons had to push the car up steep hills because its single gear was not powerful enough. But they did not give up. Her journey was a testament not only to the car's potential, but to her own incredible courage, resourcefulness, and determination. She was proving that this machine was not just for short trips around a city, but for real travel. When Bertha and her sons finally arrived in Pforzheim, they sent a telegram to Karl. The news of her successful journey spread like wildfire. She had done what Karl's public demonstrations could not. She had proven, beyond any doubt, that the automobile was a practical and reliable machine. The journey generated immense publicity. Newspapers wrote stories about the brave woman and her remarkable trip. People were no longer laughing. They were amazed. They began to see the horseless carriage not as a curiosity, but as the beginning of something truly revolutionary. Bertha's journey was the turning point, the spark that ignited the public's imagination and interest in the automobile. The success of Bertha's trip gave Karl the confidence he needed. He also learned valuable lessons from the challenges she had faced. He used her feedback to make important improvements to the car. He added a new gear for climbing hills and improved the braking system, making the vehicle safer and more capable. Orders for the Benz patent motorwagen began to arrive. His workshop grew into a factory. The dream that had once been confined to his mind was now a commercial reality. The age of the automobile had truly begun, all thanks to one man's vision and one woman's courage to show that vision to the world. Karl Benz's invention did more than just create a new type of vehicle. It fundamentally changed the way people lived, worked, and connected with one another. The world suddenly became a smaller place. People were no longer tied to the routes of railways or the slow pace of a horse. They could travel where they wanted, when they wanted. This new freedom led to the growth of suburbs, the creation of new industries, and a profound shift in society. The simple, three-wheeled machine built in a small German workshop had set in motion a chain of events that would reshape our planet in the century to come. Today, we can see the legacy of Karl Benz all around us. The roar of engines on a busy highway, the freedom of a road trip, the very design of our cities, all can be traced back to his pioneering work. He was a man who saw the future and had the tenacity to build it. He faced failure and ridicule, but he never abandoned his dream. The story of Karl Benz is a powerful reminder that with curiosity, perseverance, and a little bit of daring, one person can indeed change the world. His invention put humanity on a new road, a road we are still traveling today.